Hi, and welcome to Introduction to Anti-Racism Terminology. This video is brought to you by the Rainbow Diversity Institute, a company that does education on equity, diversity, and inclusion topics like this and many others. You can learn more about us at rainbowdiversityinstitute.ca. Today's video is going to provide an introduction to the concept of white privilege. You may have encountered this concept before as it's become kind of popularized, or you may have heard of the concept of privilege in another context related to another social identity. However, we're going to talk a little bit about the origins of the term and how it can be useful to you in anti-oppression or anti-racism work and action. So white privilege is a concept that was coined by Dr. Peggy McIntosh in the 90s. She coined this concept to help us understand the ways in which racism shapes not only experiences of people of color, but also the experiences of white people, and is really ingrained and kind of deeply involved in our day-to-day experiences in ways that we might not otherwise be able to examine without this notion of privilege. So white privilege can be defined as the systematically conferred advantages that individuals enjoy by virtue of their membership in dominant groups with access to resources and institutional power that are beyond the common advantages of marginalized citizens. So if you watched any of the other videos that we have on rainbowdiversityinstitute.ca, or if you feel like going and watching another, you'll know that we have some videos around oppression, power, that really help to understand what it means to hold power as a member of a dominant group. But today we're going to talk about some of the benefits or advantages that come with being a part of a dominant group, and how this is a form of unearned power. So Dr. Peggy McIntosh really describes white privilege as having an invisible knapsack, which is why we've put this image of a backpack on the screen. So she suggests that white privilege is like carrying around this knapsack full of all these different unearned advantages and toolkits and keys that allow you access and ease of moving through society as it's structured, and which are not necessarily things that you have worked for, but that are just given to you on the basis of being white or on the basis of being born into that privilege. So some examples of white privilege include learning about your race and your history in school. This is not a privilege or an experience that most people of color have. Another example is not being asked to represent all people of your racial group. So oftentimes people of color are asked to speak on behalf of their racial group, but also when we encounter people of color, we use their behaviors and characteristics to make generalizations about particular racial groups based off of our experiences with a single person. And the third example here is, and you could say university, you could be applying for a job. In most contexts, white privilege means that a white person can be pretty sure that their professors or superiors will share their racial identity. So these are just three examples of unearned advantages that white people hold just by virtue of being white. So it's important to note that white privilege is really connected to the notion and system of white supremacy, because white supremacy suggests that whiteness is superior. And in that, white privilege is really connected to this idea of whiteness being the standard by which everything else is measured. So when whiteness is seen as neutral, but also superior, other people are measured against whiteness, right? So BIPOC folks are measured against it. And all of our systems are structured in service of whiteness and to accommodate whiteness, and not necessarily to accommodate or respond to the needs of people of color. And so because those systems are constructed in that way, white privilege is something that people just inherently experience when they are white, regardless of their particular actions. White privilege, white supremacy, and racism are really interlinked, and it's important to understand that examining one's own privilege is one way of deconstructing some of the ways that supremacy and racism show up in your life. So I want to thank you for taking the time to watch this video today, and I encourage you to visit rainbowdiversityinstitute.ca for more videos and education like this.